spiritual service starts in 5 minutes. Get your friends, get your coffee, get your seats. Welcome.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan, and I'm the pastor here, and it is so good to be with you on another Saturday evening here in Denver, Colorado. Welcome to all of you joining us online from your living rooms or sober living houses or kitchens or free circles or parks or bathrooms, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome here. Can I say a quick word before we get started?
I would love that.
So sometimes our online viewers, we never get to meet many of them. Many of you, we never get to meet you in person, but sometimes y'all actually show up here. Is Betty Hughes in the house? Betty Hughes, stand up and wave your arms in the air.
Oh, welcome, Ben.
This is Bobby, our cafe manager. This is Bobby's mom, and it's her first time joining us all the way from Nebraska.
Awesome.
So welcome, Betty. We're glad you're here. So good to have you here.
That's exciting.
Hey, we are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts and spiritual refugees, and what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And I'm going to throw it to Noelle Holskin, our Vision Implementation Lead, to tell us some things that are coming up.
Okay, great. Thank you. First things first, we have our welcome bags. If this is your first time at Free this evening, they're just right outside the store behind Derek and Kira over here. A little bit about what we do here at Free Spiritual Community. There's a card in there about what Wagon Coffee does. There's some fresh roasted Wagon Coffee. She just put it together about 45 minutes ago, so it couldn't get any more fresh. But please grab a welcome bag on your way out. And also, if it is your first time here, there are Connect cards in the donation boxes. We would love for you to fill one of those out to keep connected with us. Get it on our email. We'll keep you in the loop with events as we go on. So we would love for y'all to do that. You guys, we have a ton of new merchandise here in the cafe area if you haven't checked it out. There's a photo of it for you, but gosh, we have tank tops for the summer, free kids shirts, we have free cafe shirts in there. So after service, feel free to check that out. It's in the cafe if you haven't seen our merchandise wall. So next up, we have our baptism. So we will be doing baptisms at the service, in the custom-built wagon right in front here at the service on May 28th. If you or your children would like to get baptized, we are asking that you attend a What is Baptism night, and it's on May 17th from 5:30 to 6:30. If it's something you're interested in or just want to know more about it, talk to Rev Ryan after service or shoot him a message, and you can go from there. Lastly, we have our next after-service party, and it'll be May 28th, so the same night as baptisms, and we are teaming up with a nonprofit here in the Denver metro area called Holy Kicks. We will be providing the pizza, and you guys will be providing the shoes, the new shoes and socks for this nonprofit. So our goal for the month of May is to collect 50 shoes for this nonprofit. So we'll be collecting them through the month, and then
So it's actually like 100 shoes, right?
Yes. Okay, math magician.
Math.
Okay. So 50 pairs of shoes, 100 shoes total. Okay, great. But we have Tiger in the house. How cool of a name is that? With Holy Kicks, and he's just going to tell us a little bit about the nonprofit and who we're supporting. But we are shooting for 50 pairs of shoes over the course of May. That is our goal, with a final evening and an after-service party to celebrate on May 28th. So, Tiger, if you would like to come up here. Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Welcome, Tiger.
I was here with you a couple years ago. My friend Jamie got baptized, and it was fun. I saw the wagon live. So I'm a Lutheran pastor. We only use small amounts of water, so I love a little more than that. We do all kinds of things very stupidly. So it is great to be with you. I just want to say I'm out on the street. I work on the street in North Colfax and in North Aurora, and I spend a lot of time with all kinds of folks that are on all kinds of journeys. And you guys have a beautiful reputation in town for what you do and the people you love and how you love. And so anyway, just keep doing what you're doing, because that's super cool. On another note, what's super cool is when you bring Holy Kicks brand new shoes. And what we do is we walk with people experiencing homelessness, economic disparity. And the way that we do that is through lots of mentoring and love. Lots of my leaders with Holy Kicks are all guys I met that were sleeping on Colfax and were always in some transition. Lots of my friends have died. I do a lot of street funerals. But we're always walking with folks wherever they're at in life. As I say, all my friends are felons. And we do lots of things. So I raise money in the suburbs, but I get my leadership off the street. And so what we do is often work with organizations that will raise us brand new kicks. We'll receive donations for about $20. We buy at about a $17 price point. We buy brand new kicks. We don't give away Jordans, but the good news is your brother's foot has never been in the shoes that we give away. So that is the excitement of that. Next, we've given, and just really in going hard at it, I quit my other jobs about 2 years ago to go all in with Holy Kicks. And we've given away about 6,500 brand new pairs of shoes in really less than 2 years. So it's pretty fun. I'll just tell you real quick, the next couple places, we were at Place Bridge Academy last week, the Maggies School for Refugees. Next week, we're partnering with Keller Homes, doing about 100 pairs of shoes for young moms, teen moms, and their children at Hope House. On the other side of town, we'll be at a place called Sock's Place, downtown Denver. Is a drop-in center for young folks living on the street, and we'll work there. We work with lots of Title I schools. I do events right out of the back of my truck, work in shelters. We do all kinds of things. Lots of case managers call me and say, we need a new pair of kicks, and usually our answer is yes. So looking forward to being here with you in 2 weeks, hanging out with you afterwards, and just thank you. Anytime somebody says yes with us, see our name up here is, we're up to great things, but we only do it because people walk with us to walk with anybody else. And that night we can talk with you too. If you're interested in coming out and hanging out with us at an event, I can show you how to do that. Toddler size 4 through men's size 20.
Wow.
If you have a foot, we usually say yes, and we sometimes do different size, shoes for somebody as well on occasion. So, we put new shoes and socks on anybody usually who asks.
Well, thank you so much for your work in the world, Tiger. We're happy to be partnering with you. So that's going to happen in, is it 3 weeks from tonight or 2 weeks from tonight?
Dos. Is it 2?
May 28th. 3 weeks from tonight.
Okay.
Awesome, man. Thank you for being with us tonight, Tiger.
I'm pretty sure that's 2 minutes.
Yeah, job well done. All right, y'all, it is, this is kind of a significant weekend because tomorrow, as many of you know, is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers, and we have a little video to show.
You don't have to wash your hands. I have so much time to myself. Hey, walk away when I'm talking to you. My kids really respect my privacy. When this timer goes off, please turn it off and do not tell me. Thanks. Here, can you use up all my battery? Don't call me when you get there. I don't want to know where you are. It is just too quiet in this car. Okay, we're about to leave for church, so if you're gonna make a huge mess, you better do it now. I don't know, your dad usually does everything around here. All of these people are such good drivers. Eating dinner is completely optional. Hanging up your towel is completely optional. Flushing the toilet is completely optional. Okay, this time, can you smile more like a crazed lunatic? Hey, you want to dig through the fridge for the 5th time today? I'd definitely rather be here than at the beach. I am loving the look of these chips on the floor. I am loving the smell of your feet in my face. I am loving this back pain. Get a massage, ew, no thanks. Take anything you want from my closet and don't worry about putting it back. Don't look at the camera, look over there. If your sister takes your toy, just give her a good smack on the head. Hey, come drink that grape juice in here on the carpet. It's dinner time, everybody come get a snack. Hey, did you know you can wear the same pair of underwear all week long?
Who can relate out there? All right. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. All right, let's continue in our celebrations because it's the way we start things here at Free. We celebrate together. We lift up the good stuff. We don't ignore the hard stuff. We just save it for the end. We call those heartaches. But we start with celebrating and gratitude to remember the things we do have, the things we have been given. We don't start with what we don't have. So this is your opportunity to take 3 minutes and lift up the good. Maybe it's a sobriety anniversary, birthdays, babies, jobs, whatever the new thing in life is, we want to celebrate it with you, and we believe that God celebrates with us. So, for those of you online, you're going to take 3 minutes in the house too. But it's your opportunity online, at least, to get vulnerable. Put it in the Facebook comments or the YouTube comments, and we will interact with you soon. And if you're in the house here, just raise up your hand, and Derek has a mic, and he will bring you the mic, and you can say your celebration. All right, let's take 3 minutes.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride and find myself, I am alive, and I soar. Still I run toward the wind and let the challenge draw me in, 'cause I want more. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. 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 Oh, wake up heart and wake up mind, and see the world is yours to find. And with every passing day there's more, calling you out to explore. Get up and go. There is joy found in the race, and I feel it in the place where I'm free. And I simply can't deny it, that I feel adventure calling out to me. Yeah, we are all looking for adventure. 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 We are all looking for And I'm living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be.
Thank you, Matt. We're proud of you, dude. Sometimes it happens. We don't do
love you,
shame.
Matt.
We do not do shame. All right, Tammy Canaday in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, guys.
Do we have a celebration?
We have a celebration.
Let's hear it.
On Thursday, we will have 17 years of marriage. We're celebrating our anniversary.
Thursday, way to go, baby. We're going to celebrate hard. We're going to go back to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Just kidding, just kidding. All right, let's celebrate with our online community, shall we?
Let's do it. Hey, Andrew, celebrating my amazing wife and mother of our baby boy, who will be here in only 2 more months. So grateful for how she has handled this pregnancy and how well she's cared for our baby. She's done amazing. Yeah, that's exciting.
Yes, she has. It's been good to have her here, and you, Andrew.
2 months, 2 more months.
Oh my goodness, how did that go so fast? All right, Jen says, today is 2 years, 8 months sober. Living in recovery is cool, y'all. Every day has not been easy, but every day I thank God for my sobriety. Jen, we are celebrating that with you. Congratulations, 2 years, 8 months.
Awesome, Jen. Hey, Jackie, I was able to pay for my mom to get her hair cut and colored. She hasn't been able to since before September, when she had knee surgery. She's had a rough recovery. She will be going back to work on the 16th, and she'll be looking, good with a new haircut. That was a long one.
Yeah, that's a good one, though. Jackie, we're
Yeah.
celebrating that with you. Thank you for tuning
That
in
is so
tonight
cool.
and joining us. Sharon says, I want to celebrate my mother, Betty Ortega Ludecki. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. My new mother-in-law, Rebecca Freeman, and all the other amazing mothers in my life and in the world. I also want to celebrate my husband, Kenneth Freeman, for all the hard work he does with work and getting our backyard ready for summer. Dog run is complete. Yay.
Good job,
All right,
Kenneth.
Sharon, we'll celebrate that with you.
And Sonia, I'm celebrating learning how to set healthy boundaries for myself while on this recovery journey.
There you go, Sonia.
That's the
good
good stuff, yeah.
We'll celebrate that. Stephanie
Hey, Steph.
on the YouTube says, I'm celebrating being in my hometown, Brooklyn, Michigan tonight, spending time with some precious hearts who've known me since elementary school. I'm grateful for these forever bonds.
Yeah.
Stephanie, we're celebrating that with you. We're glad you're part of this community. Man, and I just got to take a moment and say, it's so beautiful. We had, I know for those of you online, you wouldn't have heard this, but 2 kids in our midst lift up their moms and dads getting sober. And it's so cool to see in this community people getting their lives back and jobs being gotten and just all the new things that happen because of the gift of sobriety. Thanks be to God. So thank you all for sharing with us. Thank you for being with me, Tammy. We'll see you in a little bit. All right. So y'all know we're in the 3rd week of our series, which is geared towards spiritual refugees. Spiritual refugees, creating space. Creating space. Someone help me out. You belong creating space for our spiritual refugees. My goodness, I've totally butchered that. Forgive me and just watch the video. How about that?
Do you believe in God? Almost 90% of Americans say yes. But when you ask people if they attend a church, synagogue, or mosque, the numbers tell a very different story.
Houses of worship have been struggling to grow membership over the past several years. Tonight, new numbers show just how bleak that reality is.
Experts will tell you, look, if you have gone 10, 15 years, you found your groups, you sort of found your thing, you're less likely to return to religion.
Man, that's an abrupt ending. You belong, creating space for spiritual refugees. So I have for a long time described our spiritual refugees as those who have felt kicked around by religion. They were told somewhere along the way that they don't belong when it comes to the God stuff. And maybe some of you have experienced that here, but you've also experienced that kind of deep longing for belonging when it comes to the spiritual journey. So real quick, just by show of hands, would you be willing to raise your hand if you have ever fallen into that category of spiritual refugee? Maybe you're there right now. Yeah. So it's really interesting to note, they're constantly doing all this new research and surveys and studies around the religious landscape in America. And what we're told is, Gallup is one of these polls that does a lot of the research. We'll throw it on the screen for you. Americans' membership in houses of worship continued to decline last year, dropping below 50% for the first time in Gallup's 8-decade trend. In 2020, 47% of Americans said they belonged to a church, synagogue, or mosque, down from 50% in 2018 and down 70% in 1999. Here's a graph to show kind of what they're talking about. You can see for a long time things held steady and they're in quick decline. It's also interesting to note the fastest growing category in the U.S. is what sociologists of religion are calling the nones. Not N-U-N-S, but N-O-N-E-S. And the nones are those who don't really identify with any particular religion or any particular religious belief system. It's also interesting to note another fast-growing group here in America is what they are calling the Dones, D-O-N-E-S. And the Dones are those who were once active and once committed to a religious community, but they aren't anymore for a variety of reasons. Now, recent research shows that a majority, 66% of Americans, between the ages of 23 and 30 said that they stopped attending church on a regular basis after they turned 18. And among the primary reasons are that church people seemed judgmental and hypocritical. Now, y'all might agree or disagree with what's happening with religion in America, but the numbers don't lie. There is very little interest in organized religion. But in my experience, so many of us still have this deep longing and this desire to journey together when it comes to the spiritual stuff, to be on a spiritual journey together, to know that you're not alone. To know that you're not alone in your biggest questions, your deepest doubts, to know that you're not alone in your explorations of the God stuff, the spiritual stuff. And it's true. Some of you have had really negative experiences with religious institutions or communities. You couldn't stomach it anymore. You were even told you don't belong with God by maybe a religious leader or by maybe your own narrative of shame that crept up from your past. You were told you don't belong, but something deep down within tells you not to give up on the God idea because you've had too many experiences of grace and goodness and of something more. But you're also kind of tired of the hypocritical attitudes and the hypocritical ways and the judgmental attitudes. But man, let's just be honest for a moment. It is easy to be judgmental, is it not? I mean, sometimes it's fun, isn't it? I mean, we get stuck in that stuff, and for many of us, it's our first impulse. And I think the thing that saves us from our judgmentalism, if I can use that word, is grace. To remember our own stories, but for the grace of God, there go I. Now, y'all heard me share it last week at the end of our service that we had a theft occur here at Free. There was a fella who roamed around last Friday evening, and he wandered into Tammy's space and stole a laptop, stole 2 iPads. And we found this out on Saturday afternoon, just a few hours before the service last Saturday. And so we were watching this video footage from our security cameras, and we see this guy. And then he ended up hacking into Tammy's PayPal account using his own name. And so we were able to get his name and match it up with some security footage and then do some social media creeping. And so here I am seeing this guy on screen, seeing him on my phone screen on social media. And I have to be honest with y'all, my first impulse was, man, I want to punch this guy in the face. My second impulse was, how can we ruin this guy's life? Because y'all know how revenge works, right? It just keeps escalating. How can we ruin his life? And my third impulse was, after I was able to calm down a little bit and get centered, was, man, I got to pray for this guy. Because I know I have too much experience that the thing that saves me from that raging anger, the thing that rescues me from that resentment is when I'm able to pray for that person. And y'all listen, I don't say this to sound noble or to sound pious. Man, I just had too many years spent in that hate and anger and revenge towards those who offended me. And what I can tell you is it got me nowhere, absolutely nowhere. In fact, it stole everything from me, my joy, my peace. It was like this consuming fire in me that burned up everything good. And I've also got too many experiences in what happens when I pray for them, all the things I want for myself. And I've been set free too many times. But I have to be honest with y'all. Last Saturday, and even moments this week, I said, no, God, I don't want to pray for him. No, not yet, not this time. Let me handle it on my own for a little bit and do it my way, then I'll bring you in when I need you. So we were getting in the car last Saturday night. We were here late because it was the after party. It was about 10 o'clock at night. It was me and our 2 daughters getting in our car. And we're driving, and I turned off the radio, and I said, all right, babies, we're going to pray for this guy. And you know, we prayed for him by name because something happens when we actually say the name, it has a way of humanizing someone, because it's too easy to say that thief, that criminal, or my ex, or that bee, or whatever word you use. But when you use their name, something different happens. And so I said, all right, babies, we're going to pray for them. And I started to pray, and I offered up a little prayer. Then I looked at Selah, our 11-year-old daughter, who was in the front seat, and I said, Selah, do you want to pray? And she kind of mumbled this one sentence prayer, and it was actually kind of beautiful. She said, God turned the light on in his heart. And then I looked to the back seat to our 9-year-old daughter, Shiloh, and I said, baby, do you want to say a prayer? She quickly responded, nope. And then she did this, her finger in the air. And when she does that, she's armed with some facts about the world that I'm not aware of. And she says, Poppy, you know he doesn't deserve it. And when she said it, and to my knowledge, she still hasn't prayed for him, and I'm not pushing it. When she said it, it made so much sense to me. And when she said it, I thought, man, she is so much like me. Because it is so easy to put things like love and grace in those categories of deserving. And when she said it, it got me reflecting on my own story. The many years living in active addiction. The things that I stole. From friends, family, strangers, the amount of booze I stole, the pills that I stole. If I was in your house and you had pain pills, well, they weren't yours, they were mine, and I justified it in 1,000 different ways. And see, and for many years, I lived like I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't really worthy of God's grace, God's love, God's redemption. And the problem with that is, if I'm not worthy, then what Ryan does is he looks out towards everyone else and says, you're not worthy either, especially those who have offended me. You're definitely not worthy. And see, what I know is today I am convinced that God's love and grace always moves beyond those categories of deserving. And listen, it's also worth saying this, because some of you have asked us about it. You've said, oh, so there's not a police report? You're not filing a report? Yeah, we did. Yeah, there's an active investigation. Because listen, love and grace can coexist with accountability. Love and grace does not mean that there are no consequences. Some of y'all know that all too well. Consequences still come when love and grace is present. Speaking of consequences, have we talked about ladders in here before? The importance of ladders? We have not talked about the importance of ladders, clearly, so let's talk about the importance of ladders. So, when Selah, our oldest daughter, when she was about 5 years old, we transitioned the girls, our youngest daughter was 2 at the time, we transitioned them into bunk beds. Now, y'all know how 5-year-olds are when they go to bed. They get up because they're thirsty. They go to bed. They get up again because now they need a snack. They get up again because now they need to go to the bathroom. And Selah was fascinated with this ladder that connected to the top bunk, where she still sleeps to this day. So the first weekend on that night, man, I got really frustrated because we were tired and trying to go to sleep, and Selah was up and down the ladder because she was thirsty, hungry, getting something to eat, going to the bathroom. So I walked into Selah's room. I was angry. I disconnected the ladder, and I walked back into our bedroom. And Tammy, my wife, is just kind of staring at me. You know that awkward stare where someone's staring at you and you're trying not to notice them? And she finally says, Rye, Selah needs that ladder. You have to put the ladder back. What if she needs to get up in the middle of the night? What if she needs us in the middle of the night? You have to put the ladder back. So I reluctantly got out of bed, and I reconnected the dadgum ladder, because apparently they need that thing. Because, see, there's something significant about this ladder. It connects her to the ground. It's the thing that literally connects her to grounding in the world. That ladder is significant. Now, there's this beautiful story in Genesis chapter 28. And it's a story that often gets the title of Jacob's ladder. And to understand the significance of this story, we have to do a little bit of backstory of what happened in chapter 27, because, see, Jacob had done some terrible things. I mean, talk about a thief. Jacob had a father named Isaac and a brother, an older brother named Esau. Isaac, the text tells us, he was on his deathbed. It had come to the end of his life. His vision was no longer there. He couldn't see. And so Isaac calls in his oldest son, Esau, and he says, Esau, my boy, what I want you to do is go out into the fields and gather all the things to make a marvelous meal, and you and I are going to share a meal together. And when you get done, when we finish, I'm going to give you the blessing, which was essentially when the father would say, all I have is now yours. Now, Jacob, the younger brother, he was married to Rachel, and Rachel overheard this conversation. So Rachel goes to Jacob and says, Jacob, I just heard what your dad said, man. He's going to give the blessing to Esau. You need to go out in the field, gather some food, prepare a meal, walk into your father's room, and act like you're Esau. He says, oh, it'll never work. I'm much hairier. Esau is much hairier than me. She says, yeah, we'll take care of that. We'll glue some hair on you. It's going to be fine. Just go and act like Esau. So Jacob prepares this meal. He walks into Isaac's room. Isaac can't see anything. He's on his deathbed. And Isaac says, who is it? And Jacob says, Pops, it's me, your oldest son, Esau. Long story short, it works. Isaac gives the blessing to Jacob. All I have is yours. The first known case of identity fraud. Esau gets back from the field and finds out what has just happened. And he says, when my father dies, I am going to kill that brother of mine. So Jacob's got a bounty out for his head, so he is on the run, running from God, running from himself, trying to be someone he's not. Here's where the story picks up. Chapter 28, verses 10 through 16 is what we'll look at. Jacob, on the run, left Beersheba and set out for Haran. He reached a certain place and spent the night there. When the sun had set, he took one of the stones at the place and put it near his head. Then he lay down. He dreamed and saw a raised staircase. Some translations call it a ladder. Its foundation on the earth and its top touching the sky. And God's messengers were ascending and descending on it. And we need to pause for just a moment to give you a little bit of background here. Now, in the ancient world, the ancient Babylonians and Assyrians, they built these things called, do we have it on the screen? A ziggurat. Say that with me, ziggurat. Now, ziggurats were these temple-like structures where the people of the day would go up these ladders or staircases and make offerings to the gods, make sacrifices to the gods to get the gods on their side so that they could keep blessing them, so that they would have something to eat, that the crops would be plentiful that season. So Jacob has this vision of a ladder that goes from the earth up to the heavens. They had these ladders or staircases, and they were understood to be the place that linked the heavens to the earth. Come on, is the song coming to mind? And she's buying the stairway. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. So this was a familiar image to Jacob and his people. Of course, there were people descending and ascending on it. They were going up to make sacrifices and offerings to their gods. Now, here's the kicker. The very next verse, verse 13. Suddenly the Lord was standing on it, saying, let me pause one more time. Because can you imagine the people of the day hearing this story being told to them? Imagine what they're saying. They're saying, Jacob, dude, you're crazy. You've lost it. Jacob, what'd you take before you went to bed? I mean, what kind of drugs are you on? Because this is not how the gods work. The gods do not come to us. We make offerings and sacrifices to them to try to get them on our side, but the gods do not come to us. This was a brand new thing happening in the day, and Jacob says, yeah, this is what happened. Let me tell you about it. Let me tell you what happened next. Let me tell you what this God said. I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will become like the dust of the earth. You will spread out to the west, east, north, and south. Every family of the earth will be blessed because of you. What? You mean Jacob's going to be doing good in the world after the mess he just made? Yeah. I am with you now. I will protect you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done everything that I have promised you. And this is the most fascinating part of the story. It's how the story ends, verse 16. When Jacob woke from his sleep, he thought to himself, the Lord is definitely in this place, but I didn't know it. Fascinating, isn't it? Jacob was on the run. Man, he'd caused harm and destruction, stole something very valuable, making a mess of things. And this God says, I'm with you. I've been with you the whole time. And wherever you go next, I'm going to be there too. And it's not that God was ever absent, but Jacob was just now becoming aware of it. Do you see the significance of ladders, the staircase, a means of grace? God with us. Now, maybe you look over your story and your past creeps up and you say, man, Pastor, you don't know about me. No way was God with me. You don't know the mess I was making. I left God. I walked away. I ran away from God. Man, I did some terrible things in my past. Yeah, maybe. And if God was with Jacob, surely God is with you. You know, it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I had a guy ask me after a meeting, he said, Ryan, I heard you talk about finding God and recovering, finding God in your sobriety. He said, but can I ask you, when you were in seminary and your drinking career really took off and when you were making a mess in the world and causing chaos and destruction, he said, where was God in that? And I responded to him, I said, man, I was leaving God. I was walking away from my true self. I was walking away from who I really was. I don't know where God was in that. And he said, can I challenge you to a different perspective? I said, yeah. He said, is it possible for you to look back at your story and see God's hand at work in your life, even when you were running? Can you see grace? And for me, that was like a mind explosion. You see, when you see yourself as loved by God, in God's presence, wherever you are, even in your running, that's grace. And see, when you can stand in that grace, then you can begin to see others in that grace too, even the ones who have offended you the most. And listen, I get it. So many people have given up on organized religion. You're tired of judgmental people. You're tired of hypocritical people. And is it possible that we too can lose sight of God's grace in our own lives? But for the grace of God, there go I. And maybe you've been through some stuff. With the God stuff, with religion, with church, with your addiction, or with watching your loved one battle addiction. And like Jacob, you are just kind of out there wandering. You're out there kind of running. And it's not that you're opposed to God, but you've got some real questions about the God stuff. And perhaps your greatest dream would be to see God waving God's arms on top of the ziggurat saying, I've been with you. I've never left you. I'm with you in the running. I've been with you the whole time. And wherever you go next, I'm going to be there too. You see, Jacob, he had to see himself through the eyes of God if he were to go on and be a blessing to other people, to actually do some good in the world. You want to be saved from the judgmentalism? You want to be saved from the hypocritical behavior? You have to see yourself as God sees you. Worthy of love, worthy of grace, worthy of belonging. And when you see yourself in that light, you will more naturally see others in that light too. See, God's been there the whole time. You didn't know it. And you know what's interesting? You know what Jacob did right after that? If we were to keep reading. Jacob, you know how in the story he had this stone that he used as a pillow? He took that stone that was this ordinary object, and then he set it up, and it says he set it up as a pillar to remember. And then he took this oil and he blessed it. And he remembered that moment of grace in his life. He remembered that ladder. He remembered that staircase. And he says, the text tells us that he named that place. So my brothers and sisters, where have you seen the ladders show up in your life? Those moments of grace where it was like you were waking up for the first time saying, you mean, God, you've been here the whole time and I'm just now becoming aware of it? Where are those ladder moments? And these moments, they change us, don't they? They transform us, the way we think, the way we live, the way we breathe. So in just a moment, we're going to hear a song. It's a song called Awake My Soul by the Mumford & Sons. And we have 2 stones up here on this stage with some bottles of oil. If you want to come up during this song and remember the grace that's been given to you in your life, to remember those moments, to bless those moments, I invite you to come forward during this song and just take one of the bottles, put a couple drops of oil on it, and remember, but for the grace of God, there go I. And if you want to stay in your seat and just simply reflect, you can do that as well. This time is yours. Mic on, check, check. Here we go. If you're new with us this evening, you should know that every single Saturday night we have a guest storyteller that joins us up here in the living room to share some of their experience on whatever it is we're discussing on the evening. And so tonight we have a spiritual refugee, a recovering addict in our midst. Where is she? Maggie Barfoot. There's Maggie Barfoot. Help me welcome Maggie Barfoot to the living room. All right, so let me just introduce Maggie a bit more so you all get the feel for who she is before she really jumps into her story. So like I said, spiritual refugee, recovering alcoholic, addict. Maggie has been coming to, I don't know, you've been part of Free for at least last year, right? 2 years? I don't know, so for some time, and I get these messages from Maggie sometimes. They're like these great spiritual questions. I don't always know how to answer them. But what I've known about Maggie, she's been part of our book studies. We just did a thing called What is the Bible? And Maggie, what I love about her is you ask the best questions. And for you, I think, I don't want to speak for you, but the journey is about asking better questions, not just arriving at the answers. Which is something we take very seriously here at Free. So Maggie, let's jump into things. And then I'm going to tell you at the end that she's going to be leading something soon, and I want you all to be a part of it. But Maggie, so you didn't really grow up in a religious home, a religious environment, but somewhere along the way you still became a spiritual refugee. Tell us about it.
Okay, hi. So yeah, I was not raised religious at all. But when I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was getting into a lot of trouble, drinking and just getting into some trouble and failing out of school. And so my parents decided to send me to a small private Catholic school. And it was my first introduction to anything God or religion. And from there, I had a couple experiences which I really related to what you were talking about. Tonight, I was in a Bible class, and I was asking them questions about Jesus and about God, and where is He, and how do you hear Him, and what about the Holocaust? And I would be asked to leave the class because I was interrupting the class because the other students were asking like, "Oh, you're right," and these were students that had been through Catholic school for the past however many years, and they were like, "You're right," because I hadn't asked those questions. And I had another experience that year. We did confession, and I had never been a part of that, so I didn't know that I was supposed to go in and confess my sins and talk to Him that way. So I just...
So for people who aren't aware of the Catholic tradition, what is confession exactly?
So I am not an expert on it, but during that time, I was supposed to... It was me sitting in a chair, and there was a glass... a glass wall in between me and another, I believe, priest, a leader of the Catholic Church, and I was supposed to confess my sins. So at the time, probably inappropriate behavior with men and drinking and drugging, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to know where was God, and I had just had a friend pass away pretty horrifically that year, and so I just said, well, how do you believe in God when all these bad things happen? And he just looked at me, and he did his little thing of that I was forgiven, and then he walked away. And
he gave you something, right?
Yes, he gave me a cross that had blood on it. And
how'd that make you feel?
Really frightened. And I think that was one of the first moments that somebody had said, if you don't let Jesus Christ into your heart, you're gonna burn in hell, and that's all it was. It was that saying, and then a cross with blood. And so it was hard because it was during a time where I was really, really seeking so many outside sources to fulfill me, to make me feel okay. And I desperately, like what you were talking about earlier, desperately wanted that connection, but I was struggling to just listen to what they were saying in Bible class. So didn't really get the answers that I needed.
And you didn't get the best, exactly the best picture with church leaders. You said they were in some pretty shady behavior. And to quote you, you said, I grew up seeing church leaders as judgmental, hypocritical, and full of shit.
Oh, you didn't have to share
your
that little
quote,
detail.
not mine.
That was between the two of us. Yeah, to quote it in maybe a kinder way, the person that was in charge of that school ended up being arrested for inappropriate behavior with the girls on the basketball team, and they hid it, and it just became this thing about God, and that I should be this perfect person when I was just struggling and really rebellious at the time. Like, I wanted to break the rules and all that ridiculous stuff. So this idea of connecting with God or prayer or, getting on my knees and praying, people would tell me, like, you need to get on your knees and pray or you're going to hell. And it gave me a very unsettling, kind of nasty feeling.
Yeah, and Maggie, something that happened when you were 13, you said you started drinking when you were 13, but also at the age of 13, you went into the hospital with alcohol poisoning, right?
Yeah, so during that time, it was right after, I think, that I had that experience with the confession. Kind of unrelated, but I look back on it now related because I didn't get that connection that I needed from that. And so I snuck out of the house and went to a party. I was 13, and I put a bottle of rum to my lips, and I remember waking up in the hospital, and my dad was standing over me. They had told them that I had passed away. I'd got alcohol poisoning, got my stomach pumped, got a minor in possession, Mothers Against Drunk Driving classes, community service classes. There was definitely no spiritual answer at that time.
So tell us a little bit. So you went into this life of addiction, strayed from any sort of spiritual life, I think you'd say. What were the kind of, how long have you been sober, by the way?
I'll have 6 years in October.
Way to go, Maggie. What were some of those waking up moments where you said, man, God's been here the whole time?
I think the first one was, so I had, in my early 20s, tried to get sober on my own by going to the doctor's office and put on medication and getting addicted to Xanax and all this stuff that was there, because I found out now that my answer is spiritual. It's that connection with God, and we'll kind of talk about that later. But in my early 20s, I was living with an active meth addict and alcoholic, and he had been in recovery, and but he had stopped because he said they're wanting me to believe in God, and I don't believe in God, and we'd have these long, drunken conversations about how ridiculous it was that this man in the sky was not real, and yada yada. So when I got sober when I was 27, and I was about maybe 30 days sober, and I walked in on somebody who had overdosed and passed away in his bed. And if you've had that experience, it's very horrific. And at the time, I had just tethered all ties with my family and anybody in my life. The man I had been living with, I had a protection order against at about 30 days of sobriety. And so when I walked in on that guy who I had previously talked to about a week before, had said that he was struggling with heroin use and didn't want to go into recovery because of God, because he didn't want to be religious. And after I walked in, I ended up running into a 12-step meeting, and literally I had gone into the 12-step meetings before, but they asked me to pray, and I didn't want to do that. So after that moment, that day, I remember just running into a meeting, and I just dropped everything, physically, mentally, emotionally. I will do absolutely anything you tell me to. I don't want to die. And I'm not even just want to die, but I'm just done. There's no more fighting. And so I had a man who had long-term recovery tell me, you have another conception of God. You don't have to have that to stay sober. All you have to do, if you guys are familiar with Jack and Jerry, who have recently passed away, they were the ones that told me that It just has to be something here before you and after you, and all you have to do is just start praying like that. He told me to start watching the river flow and the trees change and the sky, the sun coming up and down, and that there's this like perfect rhythm working, and all I had to do was just start asking him for help. And that's what I did.
And you know what's interesting about that? When we were talking last week about this, you said that you practiced your way there. So oftentimes, in the church world, we're told you just believe your way there. You have the rights, and we're going to talk about this more next week. Having the right set of beliefs is the thing that gets you there. And what you're describing is something different. It's a spiritual practice. That prayer became a spiritual practice for you. And that third step prayer was like practicing your way to healing rather than just kind of believing a certain set of beliefs to get healing.
Right. Sorry, I got a little off on a tangent there, but
no, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was that moment of just for the first time ever, not just saying a prayer, but really, really meaning it. In the 12-step program, we do a third-step prayer. That's the end of it. May I do Thy will always. And I repeatedly said it every single morning, every afternoon, and I had a moment about like 3 weeks into doing that my mind just shut off for a minute, and I just felt this like calm presence. It wasn't like a, hello, Maggie, I'm here, but it was just like, I just felt this peace, and I have never been the same since.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like I was intellectually trying to find this God and like question and fight and figure it out forever, and then I just had to stop fighting and invite it in, and then I felt it.
Yeah, when we stop seeking, we find it. When we stop like trying so hard to find it, there it is.
Right.
So tell us, today you're free to ask your biggest questions, to actually explore a journey of faith and what that looks like for you. And I don't know, what's it like? What's that been like for you?
It's been fun. It's been, my first few years I got really into meditation. I was really like, okay, I'll do the spiritual world, but the religious stuff, that's not real. This spiritual stuff and whatever people are talking in 12-step programs is real. So asking questions and just practicing throughout the day meditation, like getting quiet, inviting God in. But this past 2 years with Free has been an interesting experience. Like he said, I'll find, Bible verses and just not understand what they're saying, and so I'll message him. And the response that I got, like the actual answers to my questions, has just been really healing for me. To learn what the Bible and like what Christianity specifically is saying, and to have the experience that I had, and then to learn that has been like wonderful. To be able to hear people that are religious talk about the same experiences I've had, and I got to do the Bible study this past month and continue to ask questions and to have them answered by you and the other people that were in that class was so cool. So I was telling Ryan, I don't know if I want to say this out loud, but I was telling Ryan I'm beginning a relationship with Jesus right now, and it's very weird. And I'm really freaked out. Anybody who knows me is like, what's going on with you? But, it's...
Maggie's up here talking about
all
Jesus.
All right,
Look at it.
Slow it down. But just to... as for me as an alcoholic and somebody in recovery, it's really not about believing in God. It's really about taking the time to connect. And if I can't do that, like I'm just not okay. In my experiences, I loved what you were talking about earlier, is that like God was with me all the way, because those experiences for me, like what I do in my work now is I get to help people get that quiet time and like get that God consciousness, that doctors, bless their hearts, doctors and parents and mothers against drug driving classes and community services, like they just didn't give me. They were trying to help me get sober, but actually getting quiet and asking those questions and having people open enough to tell them and tell their stories. And, your wife telling your story of having to leave the church because of your belief was just like, it opened me up to wanting to come here. So. Yeah, thank you.
You know what I love about our spiritual refugees, which is dang near everybody here, and recovering alcoholics and addicts? There's something about that kind of brokenness that opens your heart. So we think spiritual refugees might be closed off. No, I'm done with that. I've been down that road. But I've actually experienced them to have this kind of new, fresh openness that's really fun, and like you see God do these really powerful things in people's lives.
That's what the book study was about. We would have these conversations, and I'm like, what do you mean that's what it was? Like, when I read that when I was 13, that's not the answer that I got. Like, that's so beautiful.
So some of you might know Maggie as our, she does trauma-informed yoga here on Monday nights at 6:15. Is it 6:15?
6:15, yeah.
Yeah, right in this room. The chairs get cleared out. It's this beautiful time together. If you want to be part of that, I highly encourage it. She is also going to be leading a book study. You want to say what book it is?
Yeah, it's called The Power of Now.
Some of you know it. Who wrote it?
Eckhart Tolle.
Yes.
And it's been monumental in my recovery, really just talking about what we've been talking about tonight of not just believing, but like really, really understanding and being aware of that presence, that God consciousness, or consciousness if you want to not say God consciousness, but it's a good book, and it'll be fun.
So that's going to be June 4th. It's Tuesday night.
June 14th. I'll be in Puerto Rico June 4th.
June 14th. I got the date wrong. It is Tuesday night, right?
Yes,
Tuesday night for 5 weeks, 6:30 to 8. So if you want to be part of that book study, I highly encourage it. We'll gather just back in the living room setting that way. Anything else you want to say, Maggie? Let me ask you this. For the spiritual refugees who are here right now, or they're watching right now, and they're like, nah, man, I ain't giving the God stuff a try again. I've been down that road. And they want to give up, but something deep down says, don't give up on the God idea. What do you say to them? What hope do you leave them with?
I think a couple things, I don't know if it's helpful, but it's just my experience, is take that time to get quiet and just invite it in. And it doesn't, like if the word God, I have a big book, Alcoholics Anonymous, and when I first started putting it, I would X out the word God, and now it's not a problem, and I love that. But it can be, change the word, just invite that something bigger in you into your life. And if you're like having that time and that quiet time and that willingness to have God in your life, like you'll just start to see things. And to ask the questions, like find the right people to ask the questions. And if they're not the right people and they're giving you bullshit, then keep going, like keep finding people, because there are people out here, especially in this community, who are not afraid to answer your questions about, spirituality and religion. And it's been pretty cool.
And to ask better questions, to be on the journey together, to ask good questions together.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you, Maggie Barfoot, for being here tonight, being part of this community. Thank you for being here. All right, everyone, I'm going to turn your mic off. This is, we end our time together on Saturday nights by the same way we start, which is with, it's not celebrations, but it's the same way we share our heartaches together. Because in this community, man, one thing we see continuously over and over is we do not carry these burdens alone. We weren't created to carry them alone, to carry the heartaches alone. God hears the cries of the broken. God is always with the broken. So we take that seriously here, and we lift those things up together, and God hears, and we do that together as community. So take 3 minutes, and we'll do it the same way we did celebrations. If you're online, it's again your opportunity to get vulnerable. Let this community in. Crack open your heart a little bit. Be willing to walk with people. If you're in-house, Derek will bring the mic to you, and you can share it with us. Let's take 3 minutes. Thanks for sharing that with us. Derek is our guest storyteller next Saturday. Derek's got a powerful story around shame and being a spiritual refugee, and this dude was sitting in a corner all the time at church. And
That was my favorite spot.
yeah, you were always sent to the corner. So that'll be good, man. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
You want
I
to take
was
the
always
first
sitting
one?
by the statue of Mary.
How'd that work out for you?
Not good.
All right, we'll talk about that next week.
I ended up in prison. Alexis, praying for an amazing boyfriend, Wyatt, who is suffering with severe depression, anxiety. He feels lost, empty, and worthless as he hasn't found a job, career to fuel the passion and drive in his life. I worry this depressive episode is going to lead to a relapse. I ask that you please lift his spirit up in prayer. We definitely lift Wyatt up, and we definitely know what you're going through right now. You're not alone in this. Lifting you up, Wyatt.
Absolutely. Prayers for you too, Alexis. Prayers for Wyatt. All right, Mimi says, my mom is still drinking. Bad. Please pray she finds her way to sobriety. Mimi, we're lifting up your mother during this time, and thank you for sharing that with us, lifting you up as well.
Christy, please pray for Jen's brother. His leg is not healing, and they're talking about having to do a below-knee amputation. Prayers for the doctor to have the best plan for him. He's so frustrated and tired of the pain. Christy, definitely lifting you up and your brother. We ask that the doctors do have the answers and they can help him in the best way possible.
Yeah, thanks for sharing with us. Jackie says, my son had COVID last week and had a hard time. Now I fear it has spread to his sisters and myself. Praying everyone stays healthy. Jackie, lifting you up and your family during this time. We're glad you're with us tonight, and sounds like we're glad you're at home with us tonight. So prayers for healing.
Love you, brother.
Thank you for being up here with me, Dean.
Yeah, thank you.
Speaking of being the wagon together, do you all know the story of the wagon? I should tell that because we officially end things here at 8:15, so I have 6 minutes. I've got the burden of an undelivered sermon here. Not really, but let me tell you the story of the wagon. The wagon that we're going to do baptisms in, and it's right out here. The wagon is a central image in this community, and it comes from, a few years ago, I was in L.A., and I was visiting the L.A. Rescue Mission, which is the largest rescue mission in the country, and I was getting a tour with the executive director. And he took us up to the top floor, and there was all kinds of memorabilia, pictures of their history. And one of the central pictures, the biggest one, was this picture of a wagon, a black and white photo. And I said, dude, what's the story with the wagon? He said, you don't know the story of the wagon? And I said, no, but apparently I need to know. And he said, man, this wagon, that's how we got started here. This wagon, back in the late 1800s, would go into the roughest parts of LA, which did exist then. And this wagon would distribute things like food and clothing and Bibles. And then at the end of the night, they would welcome anyone who wanted to get on the wagon to get on and go back to a place of recovery. Now, what happens when you get a bunch of drunk people on a wagon? Some of them fall off, which is what I said. And I said, dude, is that where the story comes from, falling off the wagon? He said, yeah, that's where that comes from. But he said this wagon would stop, and the sober ones would jump off and grab the drunk ones and help them back on because they knew where they were headed, a place of recovery. And I thought, man, if we ever start something new in recovery, the central image is going to be a wagon. So we bought a little wooden wagon when we first started Free in our backyard almost 4 years ago, and that little wooden wagon sat beside our tree, and it's now on the fireplace in the whatever room we call it, that common room. So that's the wagon. That's the story of the wagon, and we are the wagon together. And I'll share with you all this. One of the ways we continue the wagon moving forward, one of the ways we thrive in the mission here of breaking the silence of addiction is truly with your generous giving and your donations here at Free. So if you feel compelled to give a donation, we have donation boxes, a giving box right here and then one outside these doors. And we're truly grateful for those. Those help us thrive in the world in our mission of breaking the silence of addiction. And if you aren't the cash sort of person, but you want to give, there are 3 ways to give online. The first way to do it is to just go to our free spiritual community app. It's free to download, and you can actually get all the guest storytellers there, all the messages there. We have a lot of content on that app, but you can give there, or go to the website, freespiritualcommunity.com, and you can give there one time or weekly or monthly, however y'all do it. Or you can send a text message to the number on your screen, and it'll walk you through a simple set of instructions. Your generous giving grows the mission here at Free. And seriously, y'all, thank you for this. I know for many of you, it's a spiritual practice, it's a sacrificial practice, and it makes a big difference here at Free. So thank you for being a part of that. Shall we close with a prayer? Maggie, what prayer should we close with? Is Maggie still in here? Let's do the third step prayer. Do we have it on the screen? All right, if y'all would just maybe open your hands. Take a big, deep breath. Invite the God of the universe into your breathing. Because God is always present. And sometimes I think God says to us, seriously, how can I get any closer? I'm in your breathing. And if you don't know the third step prayer, it'll be on your screen. And it goes like this. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. My free brothers and sisters, this week, may you go into the week and have some of those waking up moments where you wake up and say, oh, God's been here the whole time and I didn't know it. I'm just becoming aware of it. And may you go in all kinds of grace and peace, and we will see you next week. Peace.